Establish your own traditions. It is very important as a step family, a new unit, that you establish traditions that are your own.
Intentional, purposeful about celebrating things like birthdays and noting that mom and dad are involved in that as well. Parents are involved in that, and the siblings are involved in that as well.
So even tomorrow, we leave and we go to Great Wolf Lodge, and this is the day that we leave every year.
And when we go this year, we're having taco salad again, because when we told our kids we were going to go the second time, the first words out of their mouth, do you remember, is,
"Are you bringing taco salad?"
From the Family Life Podcast Network, this is Family Life Blended. I'm Ron Deal. This donor-supported podcast helps blended families and those that love them pursue the relationships that matter most. I'm so glad you've joined us on this journey. Welcome to episode 64, Seasons and Rhythms, Strengthening Your Family Throughout the Year. As I'll explain in a minute, we've been working on this episode all year, which makes this week perfect timing to release it. National Step Family Day is just around the corner, September 16th. You know, it's a day for people to celebrate the wonderful blessings their blended family is bringing to their life. And it invites the world to stop and notice. From the blended families in the White House to the millions of step families across the country and around the world, this is a day to recognize and encourage blended families. And, of course, special days present families with an opportunity to honor each other, celebrate each other, and strengthen the identity of their family. That is the subject of this episode. But before we jump in, let me just remind you that my latest book launches tomorrow, September 14th, 2021. Preparing to Blend, the couple's guide to becoming a smart step family, is designed to help engaged couples and their children get a running start on life after the wedding. And it's just what premarital counselors need as well. It helps them structure their preparation with pre-blended family couples. So I want to suggest that it is a must gift to any nearly engaged or engaged couple you know, and to any pastor or coach or premarital counselor who works with couples in trying to prepare them for the life after the wedding. Get a copy of Preparing to Blend wherever you get your books, or you can get it from the Family Life shop. The show notes will tell you how. You know, for months now, we've been asking our guests to share their wisdom with us about how families can creatively take advantage of the opportunities the family calendar gives them throughout the year to strengthen their family relationships. We want to help you take advantage of your family calendar in order to strengthen your family. And what we're going to do today is we're going to play some of their comments and then discuss the ideas. I'm joined in the studio by Shannon Simmons and Gayla Grace. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Shannon, it's good to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Both of these women are familiar voices to our podcast audience. Shannon is a ministry strategist with the Family Life Blended team, and Gayla is a writer and speaker with our team. I should add that you can meet both of these leaders and myself at our upcoming summit on Step Family Ministry, October 14 and 15, 2021, in the Atlanta area. The show notes will tell you more about that event, and I'll say more about it at the end of this episode. Okay, ladies, let's start with this. I just mentioned that this week, September 16th, is National Step Family Day. Tell me what that day means to you. Shannon, you want to go first?
Sure. So it's not a day that I even knew about growing up in a blended family. I think it became official in 1997, I believe. You can fact check me. But now that I know that there's an actual day for us, I don't think it's something that our children, we have his and ours, that they necessarily want to celebrate. I think they probably think, oh, that's weird. But I do think of my other siblings on my mom's side and my dad's side on that day. And I usually try to, send a text, make a call. And particularly, I love to just talk to my stepmoms. I have two. My dad was married a couple of times after he was with my mom. And so I love both of these ladies, and I just enjoy connecting connecting with them. So that's what that day means to me. It just brings back very vivid memories of growing up in a blended family where the adults kept the drama away from us kids.
And they protected you from the drama. So it sounds like Step Family Day means more to you than it does to your children and your family at this point in time.
Correct. Absolutely. Now, I want to make it something meaningful for my kids and my stepkids, but time will tell as they grow.
It makes a lot of sense. To you, there's meaning in it because it's an opportunity for you to connect to your stepmoms, and that has meaning for you. And your kids didn't really grow up with Step Family Day, and so it didn't really carry any particular meaning for them. That makes sense. I can totally see how some listeners will go, yeah, it's just another day on the calendar. But for other people, it's an opportunity. Gayla, I'm curious.
Yeah, I would say if you start in the early years as a step family and you celebrate it, it's a way of honoring your family and the specialness of your family. It is different. Step families are different than biological families. But I'm kind of like you, Shannon. We didn't necessarily celebrate it. We didn't know about it for a long time. But it does carry more meaning now, just as a way of honoring the fact that we're a step family and we do want to honor that. And so we've mentioned it to our kids. I think Randy and I talk about it more on the actual day. Our kids are all out of the nest now. But I do think it's something that if you incorporated it early in the early years, then maybe it would carry a good amount of meaning for your family.
Yeah. I think it's about what you put into it. If it is something formative or you create some fun rituals or traditions around it, then it's going to have more meaning for people rather than just, hey, it's National Hot Dog Day and National Step Family Day and National, pick whatever subject matters to you day. We tend to do that with a lot of things. But again, if there's some ritual around it, then maybe people latch on to it.
Right.
Okay, good. I appreciate your comments about that. Let's jump into some comments from our previous podcast guests. First up is Dr. Bobby Love. He and his wife were featured in episode number 62, Pressure to Perform, when it feels like the world is watching your blended family.
One of the things that I would add as a best practice of what I walked away with is to establish your own traditions. It is very important as a step family, a new unit, that you establish traditions that are your own as a unit versus what you did in the previous family. For instance, on Christmas, we established the fact that we will host and do a brunch. We did it earlier in the day because that gives the opportunity for you to have time with your children, and that also gives them time for the rest of the day that they can spend time with the other parent. And I think that works out great.
Okay, so it sounds to me like Bobby is just echoing what we just said about National Step Family Day. If you have some traditions or rituals centered in a given calendar day, it's going to have more meaning. And so he says it's important for your family to establish some of your own traditions. What are your thoughts about that?
I agree. I think also it's helpful if you even can ask the kids if they want to give input about traditions as a newly blended family. Depending on the age, that could change. And then also just be flexible. For us, some of our traditions, our kids were really young when we married. And then as they grew older, we kind of needed to bend and change things that just carried more meaning, that they enjoyed, because that's what helps create the belonging as a family, is that these kids want to come together and do these traditions. And so you just need to be aware, even as the kids get older, some of that might change.
Okay. So adapt with them over time.
Right.
But it's got to be centered in what the kids are interested in.
I think so. You want them to want to do the traditions.
Yes. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of people get themselves in trouble when sort of from on high, parents declare, all right, here's the new tradition. This is what we're going to do. Like it or not, everybody get on board. Well, that's pressing a lot, isn't it? Shannon, you have some thoughts?
Yeah, I just think you have to be careful with traditions as well. As Gayla said, you have to talk to them, and particularly if you are coming into a blended family where a parent has passed away, you need to respect the traditions that were in that first family and discuss if you want to continue those. Like if me as a stepmom tries to do something, that the bio mom did and she's no longer living, that may be a little disrespectful and dishonoring to that child. So you got to talk about, well, what could we do?
I can see somebody going, yeah, okay, I see your point. However, what if the kids say, yeah, I want to continue that tradition and you're not included? That was a tradition, something we did with mom. And it just feels weird for, in your case, stepmom, to be in the middle of that. What do you do as a step-parent? How do you manage when you sort of know you really need to take a step back and not be in the middle of this particular tradition? How do you manage that internally?
Well, Ron, you have said it yourself in your books that as a step-parent, you cannot be emotionally fragile. This is a prime example of it. I think that when we know our place as step-parents, we recognize that we want to do what's best for the child, and that might be that we have to step back in cases like this.
This is where we put on our thick skin as grown-ups and just go, this one's not about me. I need to step back and allow them this space. And again, I always add this whenever we talk about this, because it's so important that you understand when you do that, when children see your sacrifice and they see you giving them that without stepping into that important space for them, then it makes you respectable. It makes you more worthy of their trust. And in the long term, you win. It's a little sacrifice now for a big gain in the long term. No guarantees, but that's what we're playing for. Something else I heard in Bobby's comment there, I'd love for you guys to react to. They talked about the tradition they had of creating a brunch on Christmas, and they did it early in the day. Timing was important because they were sensitive to the other household's needs. How important is that for people to keep in mind?
I think it's important not just for the other house, but for your house. I want you to think about what the kid may feel in having to navigate between two homes and how overwhelming it could actually be. So if they know they're going to get all Christmas dinner and the fixings at your house, and then they got to go to the other house and do the same thing. Now, I know kids love to eat, and, we love all the sweets and the good stuff, but you got to keep in mind what your child is going to experience as well. So it does respect the other home, but it also gives your child some transitional time and some difference in what they're going to be experiencing from home to home. But I love that idea. I have family members that do that as well. They do a brunch and then the dinner in the day. So yeah, I thought that was a great idea.
And I do think too, if it's possible that there can be celebrations on 2 different days, that might be less taxing on kids. If you can work it out with the other home and they have the kids on Christmas Eve and you have them on Christmas Day and then you swap the next year, I think there's some advantage to that.
And let's just put this out there. There's a lot of people to talk to coordinate all of this. And always ask your child, are you good with eating 2 Thanksgiving dinners? Yeah, I'm good with that. No, Mom, I don't want to do that. Oh, okay, that's a consideration. I've been amazed through the years how many people have come up to me as if I had the right answer for how they're supposed to create their tradition and asked me, how do we do this? It's like, I don't know. Talk to your kids. Figure it out. Have a conversation. Empower their voice. Listen. You have a voice. It's a 2 steps forward, 1 step back sometimes, but you can get to the right answer sooner if you're doing it as a collaborative family unit. By the way, for people listening, ladies, is brunch the way to do Christmas dinner? Is that what people should hear from his suggestion?
I mean, it's if you love brunch. I mean, and it's if you want to get up that early to make sure that all that is done.
There
right?
you go.
If I don't have to cook Christmas dinner, I will knock brunch out, right? Mm-hmm. But if I know I'm hosting Christmas dinner and the other home may want us to do brunch so that the kid can go and do Christmas dinner there, because, no, we won't do brunch.
Right.
Because I'll be up all night trying to do brunch and dinner.
That's not the point, is it?
No.
One person's answer is not your answer.
Right. There's no rules on this.
Yeah. Yeah. So figure it out. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Eventually it becomes 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And then eventually I think it's just stepping forward most of the time, right? But it is a live and learn experience. Okay, let's hear a second clip. This is from Bobby's wife, Dr. Janice Love.
Something I've learned about managing our family calendar is to start at the first of the year, get the calendar out, start to write down all the kid activities that you know are coming, such as, for instance, a graduation or a wedding. And then also write down some of the major events that you have as well. So what helped us in this area was that we made copies of the calendar, shared it with the bio parent as well, so that we could organize the events and let our children know what was going on. So this actually really worked out well, especially when it came around to things like graduations, because there had to be more work put into those kinds of things. There had to be a party plan. There had to be adjustments on who could attend the graduation, because you could only give 5 tickets. So we made plans to co-parent is the best way to do it. Co-parent by planning those things together so that everybody is included, rather than trying to separate and do things separately as biological parents. So I think having that calendar in hand and them having the exact copy of that calendar made all the difference in the world for us.
Okay, I heard 3 words: plan, organize, communicate. React to that.
Yes, absolutely. I think that blended families have to take the plan, organize, communicate an extra step further, because you're dealing with more people, and you cannot be haphazard about it, or it will result in confusion and somebody having something double booked, and it's messy. So I love what she said. I'm in total agreement.
I love what she said too. But in my messy blended family, that did not happen. Hindsight is 20/20.
Right.
But when you're the stepmom, like, I have no authority in this situation, right? I have influence with my husband, and who in several instances sometimes maybe fell into paralyzed parenting or disengaged father, and then, Disney dad, whatever you want to call it, right? But sometimes the plan, organize, and communication is just not going to happen. And so as a step parent, you just have to step back and just try to give the best suggestions. Hey, how about we do this? Do you want to do this? Do you want to call her and see if he wants to do this? And you just have to make those suggestions. And when those suggestions are not followed through, you got to let go of that control. Like, I can't fix it. And so
that is so difficult, isn't it?
It is painfully difficult.
Yes, it is.
Because I'm the organizer,
That's
and I
right.
know how to plan a party, and I know how to send an email and set it up, and here's my spreadsheet. And if everyone just did everything I said, we would be a happy blended family.
Everything would be great.
Yes.
I'm with Gayla. Plan, organize, communicate is a wonderful plan if you're the one who has the power to implement the plan and push it out. And immediately I thought of 2 problems. What if you don't have a planner in your household? Like, nobody has that personality. I don't know what that is on the Enneagram, but you ain't it. And the second problem is, if you're the step parent, or you're the one who really doesn't have the power to see it through, now you're sort of stuck. So you're trying to, as you said, Shannon, influence the people who can communicate, who can reach out to the other household, for example, start the planning internally, then begin to take it to other households and talk to other people, talk to children. Yeah, it's really, really difficult if you're just sitting there going, we really need to be doing this. We really need to be doing this. I think it's just going to fall on its face. By the way, is it okay to just resolve yourself that it is going to fall flat and somebody's going to have to learn the hard way?
Yep.
Sounds like the voice of experience right there.
It's just like with our kids. It's the same thing. We can't constantly rescue them. We have to let them fail.
Yeah, and it's difficult to do because you want to see success. You want things to go well. And I do realize sometimes that brings some negative repercussions back on you, perhaps, the way somebody experiences this whole thing. And so there's some risk involved in it. But at the end of the day, I think people have to find their level of motivation to plan, organize, and communicate. And until everybody's on board with the same level of motivation, you're just going to be pulling dead weight. That is difficult. Okay, so for some, parenting with a co-parent in the other household, let's just assume best case scenario, sometimes it's difficult to get that level of coordination between the households. You guys have any wisdom about that piece?
I would say just offer. Always offer with humility to the person you're married to. Hey, hon, how about we do this? Would you want to reach out to her and see if we could connect and talk about this? Do you want to talk about what she's buying for the birthday party and what we're going to buy? So I may do some soft suggestions that way, right? But then I have the bio mom's number as well. And so you don't want to come across as trying to control. And I think a lot of step parents who have a really huge heart that want to just be helpful and continue to show their love for the children, sometimes it may come across as trying to control. And so you can just offer, say, hey, I just want you to know if you want any help with planning, I'm available. Whatever you need me to do, I'd love to help you. And if not, that's totally okay too. Just to let them know that, look, we're not trying to run the rodeo. We just kind of want to be in the audience and lend some support. So.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's more than one co-parent. So for Randy and I, we both had a former spouse in another home. And it just felt chaotic if we tried to get in the other one's business. So I managed my former spouse and he managed his. Yes, we did the same thing. We could make suggestions. But when it came down to it, I was going to talk to mine and he was going to talk to his. And it just worked better for us.
Yeah, I think that's a good principle in general. And again, I want to empower our listener. Like, you intuitively know what's the best way to go about this in your situation. Some people listening right now go, yeah, oh man, we can have those conversations. And I know exactly how to go about doing it. We have our regularly scheduled meeting and I'm going to bring it up then, da-da-da-da-da. And other people listening right now go, no, it's World War III if I even try to begin to. And so this is the way we have to play it. Okay, right. You know your territory better than we do, but just apply some of these principles. Janice said something about copying the calendar and making it available to all the households. I think that was back in a day when that's what you had to do. Today, we have digital calendars. You've got all kinds of options, and there are websites for co-parents that allow you to communicate through the website. I'm just wondering if you guys have had any experience with those. Not that we're going to recommend any in particular, but the idea of it is really good. It's available on your mobile device. All sorts of ways this is advantageous. For highly conflictual couples, you don't have to actually talk to one another. It helps take the emotion out of it, which hopefully reduces some of the conflict. You just communicate through the calendar program. Any thoughts about that?
I think that's a great way, especially when there's a high conflict situation. And I agree. It's pretty easy. You can do anything digitally now.
Yeah. If you just want to, you can figure it out.
Right.
And again, we don't here at Family Life Blended have any specific programs that we recommend to people. There are a number that are available. I would just say get out there, do a couple searches, find what works for you. Okay, let's do another clip. It's Jenny Jurchenko. I was talking with her and her husband in episode number 59, Conversations to Improve Your Family.
I think for our family, learning to utilize that calendar and we call it creating soft landings. And so we kind of navigate these difficult things in our life and knowing that we have something on the calendar that's intentional, that's planned, that's a place for us to just land and enjoy each other and have fun. And it helps us to weather some of those more difficult times, even if it's just a Minnesota winter where we're stuck inside. But the big things and the daily life type of events that happen, having those soft landings planned on the calendar, intentional, purposeful. We also like to make sure that they're scheduled. So even tomorrow we leave and we go to Great Wolf Lodge. And this is the day that we leave every year and we come back the day before Easter, but that is our soft landing. That's the girls know that is where we are going to go. We are going to have this intentional time together to just be as a family.
Okay, I love this. there's a time coming for your family or for your children that is a not so fun aspect of blended family living, moving between homes, or something that's not quite great. Or maybe it's just been a chaotic, sort of hectic time. You pre-plan a soft landing. The family comes together. You get to sort of just be together, have a little fun, decompress. What a great idea. What are your thoughts?
It's a great idea if you're a planner, but you almost go back to what we just talked about. There may not be planners in every home. And I would say we have had some really meaningful times as a family that were not planned. And so I think also we just have to be aware that there might be opportunities that come up on the fly. And you might have to set a plan on the back burner to take advantage of the opportunity that you have right there to be intentional with your family.
Have you ever found that a spontaneous moment becomes a tradition? Like it just happened and it was magic and you could have never planned it, but this time next year we could plan it again.
Yes. Okay. I can definitely see that. We had that happen in our family, something that we learned everybody really enjoyed, and it just kind of happened haphazard. And then it's like, okay, guys, you want to do this again next year? Mm-hmm. So yes, I can see how that happens too.
I actually think those are the best kind of traditions.
Right.
Because it was so organic, it has so much meaning inside it. There's nothing disingenuous about it at all. And everybody knows that it was kind of a cool moment.
Right.
Shannon?
I think for us, what I've done, I know Gayla talked about, the soft landing. You can't necessarily plan it if there's not any planners. I intentionally suggest use influence with my husband when he's picking up his kids and coming to our home. I recognize that they don't live in a step family until they come into our home. Right. So in the other home, there may not be another step parent. They only live in a step family situation until they come to our home. And so I would kind of, hey, why don't you take him to get some ice cream or get you guys a burger before you come home? I wanted him to have some alone time with his dad before he came into our home, re-entering, step family for us, right? And getting reacquainted with his siblings, right? So I learned early that he needed some quiet with my stepson. He needed some quiet just to say, okay, this is where I am. All right. And then come in and try to re-engage with me and his dad and his other siblings. So just that transitional drive time was good.
That's
and that
good.
was intentional on my part to try to kind of encourage my husband to do that.
Yeah. And I want to extend that idea to somebody who's listening right now whose kids have a really stressful other home. And you know it, and they know it, and you just know when they come back, they're going to be keyed up and in knots and anxious, and trying to design some soft landings for kids in those situations is probably really good medicine. It's sort of a big hug for those kids. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, doesn't have to be elaborate, but just try to think of some creative ways to create that space where they can sort of begin to decompress and you can just sort of hang out, and it just helps, I think, a little bit.
And I feel like a lot of it is just seeing things through the child's eye. So we forget to do that. As step parents especially, we always want to think about how hard it is for us, and we forget how hard it is for the kids. And transition days are huge for kids.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was Jenny's comment. Her husband, Jed, he added this thought.
So want to build off the idea of soft landings. And I would add to that, with the traditions and the holidays, get creative and build some fun moments into it, which is something you did, which was absolutely genius. Because you knew the first time you presented the idea, I was going to say, there's no way we can afford that. So you were ready. You had the Groupons, you had the gift card saved up, and you looked at me and said, and Jed, the first night we're there, we're going to have taco salad.
No, you know what I said is there's no way we can afford not to go.
You did.
Yep.
And when we go this year, we're having taco salad again, because when we told our kids we were going to go the second time, the first words out of their mouth, do you remember, is,
Are you bringing taco salad? Yep.
Yeah, so I would just say have fun with those traditions, because those little things, those goofy things are what everybody remembers. And I think we're all looking forward to taco salad tomorrow night.
So there it is, Gayla. It's the spontaneous moment that becomes the tradition. Taco salad just became something that had meaning for the kids and made it possible.
And lean on the one that's fun. I mean, in my marriage, my husband's the fun one. And so it's important for me to just kind of sit back and let him take that light at times and just make the moment more lighthearted.
There were 2 or 3 other things that I just wanted to highlight in what he said. Save for this soft landing moment. Save some money, put something aside, plan for it a little bit. And then he said, it's the small, goofy things that often really rise to the top as being awesome. Yeah, don't overthink it. Sometimes just go for small, goofy. Okay, let's hear another clip.
One of the things that has helped our family move forward and a tradition that we've really enjoyed has been a Christmas Eve dinner where we invite Jesus to come dine with us. And we do a big prime rib and a huge spread with all kinds of good desserts and, asparagus and mashed potatoes. And we put Jesus at the head of the table with a plate, and then the rest of the family all gathers around the table. And the kids love it because, how many kids get to eat prime rib on a regular basis? And then it's kind of our New Year's resolution. We all write down what we feel like we can do better in the coming year. And then we fold those up and we put those on Jesus's plate. And then we put those in a box and nobody looks at them or anything. But it's just a time of remembrance. We all get dressed up and we light candlesticks in the middle of the table, and the kids all drink fake champagne. And that's been a really positive experience for our family.
That was Jessica Ronnie from an upcoming episode, number 70. Okay, ladies, New Year's Eve, yeah, lots of people do special things, but they sort of kick it up a notch. They made it elaborate, and they add a richness to it, a new meaning. We're inviting Jesus to dinner, and we're going to just honor him, and we're going to be thinking about our upcoming year and how we can live in ways that honor him. What are your thoughts?
I loved their tradition. I like that they got dressed up and, having the apple cider. I think that's something that kids would definitely enjoy, particularly, I know my kids would, my 13-year-old would, but I love that they do that and inviting Jesus to the table. I think they could have very rich conversations about that, not just inviting him into your table, but how do you invite him to be Lord of your life? How do you include him in all the things that you do? So I love that idea. I know for us, for our traditions, like New Year's Eve, we go to church. That's the thing we do in our community. We call it watch night, and we worship and listen to a sermon, and we roll in the new year, praising God. So I loved her tradition.
And I think, too, it doesn't just have to be New Year's Eve or Christmas traditions. You think about Easter and how easy it is to just gather and talk about the sacrifice and what does that sacrifice mean to us and how do we want to live life as a result of his sacrifice. So I think it's important to consider how do you incorporate other times of the year, too, not just the ones that we predominantly think about.
Sure. The thing that grabbed me about this one is just, again, how elaborate it was. There's something about dressing up. There's something about getting out the fine dinnerware. This is a special occasion. It sort of ramps up the expectation and the anticipation of the evening. And, the first time you do it, people may well, whatever, I don't know why we're doing all this. But the second and the third and the fourth, okay, the richness is really coming to the surface and it's meaningful for the family. And yeah, pick your night of the year, pick other ways of keeping that message moving forward with your family. But yeah, this is a real creative thing to do.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so that was Jessica Ronnie. Now here's Ryan, her husband.
I think when we first got married, we wanted to find a way to join our two families and all the, with 22 grandparents and extended cousins and all this stuff. We started receiving Christmas cards at first Christmas, and half of our kids didn't know any of the people. So Jess had this great idea to take popsicle sticks, and we cut the faces out after Christmas, of course, rather than throw them all away. We cut the faces out, we put them on these little popsicle sticks, and we put them in a jar on the table. And every night we would sit down to pray, and everybody had to grab a popsicle stick, and they couldn't pick one they knew. They just had to grab one randomly, and we prayed for that person. So it gave them a chance to learn about somebody, because they'd say, "Who's this?" And then we would explain to them who that is, and they'd say, "Well, what do you think they'll need?" And this is even when our kids were like 2 and 3 years old. They participated, and we just said a quick prayer over that family or that person, and it gave us a chance to learn more about the other side of the family, other friends that wanted to be part of it. And the next year, people found out about it. We got a lot more Christmas cards. So we had a huge pile of these prayer sticks, and I think the kids really did enjoy that.
Okay, first to our listener, yes, you heard him correctly. They had 22 grandparents connected to their children. You'll have to listen to podcast episode number 70 in order to hear the whole backstory to that. Can you imagine what it's like at Christmas or holidays with all of those family members? But what a creative way to invite your new family members to learn about their new family members. Took Christmas cards, cut out the faces, put them on popsicle sticks. You pull one out of the middle. Hey, I don't even know who this person is. This is my Uncle Charlie twice removed. I don't know anything about this person. And you sit around the table and people tell stories, and you're essentially introducing Uncle Charlie to this kid. And maybe it's somebody sitting across the table from you that you get introduced to a little bit on that. I just thought it was very creative. What a great idea. Figure out who people are.
Yeah, I think about this one and then the one we just talked about a minute ago about New Year's resolutions. It's just about getting creative with your family and your circumstances and what is going to provide meaning for your family and how to go about doing it.
You know, the bigger question people are wrestling with is identity as a blended family, right? So learning who these new people are is also about who I am and how I fit into the larger family picture. So it's more than just an exercise. You know, it's an opportunity for the two people sitting around you to tell the stories they know about this person that you're just now beginning to get to know. And then you get to see yourself fitting in with that person and how do they relate to me. I just think it's a wonderful, wonderful idea.
I also think it was very important for those parents to give the children an opportunity to get to know people. Like how overwhelming it is to go into a new step family as a kid and you don't know all of these people. Mm-hmm. And now I'm telling you stories about Uncle Bill or Aunt Jenny or whatever the case may be. Now I'm helping you know who these people are so that when you go to the next cookout, you won't feel so alone. Right. You may feel, oh, I think I know that. I remember her. Mm-hmm. Come, I want to learn more about her. Or, this is your cousin. And, so I think that was really helpful because it can be overwhelming for children as they're learning new people.
Yeah, it's good. Okay, let's play a clip from Lori Pollitt's short. She was featured with her husband, Jerry, in episode number 60. We called it Grace-Filled Step Parenting. She had these thoughts to offer.
I think our transition time traditions have been our best practices in our step family, that we have intentionally planned something that Jordan would be a part of that wasn't just us, him coming home to just us, but in fact involved other community or family that would reestablish his identity in our part of his family. That has been huge for us. Every holiday, we bring other family members around him. Being an only child in our situation, he's not an only child, but we have seen the value of that, of doing things with friends and family. And then on top of that, we do have our little traditions of Sunday night, movie night, with pizza. We still have pizza on Sunday nights. And so we do have those traditions that I think are so important for kids that are having to go through a lot of transition in their life.
Okay, in this one we heard something familiar. In their case, Sunday night pizza and movies. There's a regular tradition that their family has discovered and that they honor. But she added something I think is really helpful, and that is the power of community. Sometimes that's the community of the extended family. Sometimes that's friends. So they made use of friends and church members to be involved in their son's life when he came back from the other household, an extended stay at his mom's house, for example. I think that's a very powerful thing.
I think with an only child especially, because he is trying to find belonging. Of course, all the kids are in blended families, but it is different when he's the only one. So in our household, we had 2 kids on both sides that were coming back and forth. So they always had that belonging with their full sibling. And I think that was helpful for them, but not everybody has that. Mm-hmm. So what they're trying to do provides an extra layer to help with his finding identity and belonging.
And I think you also have to talk to the child or the children involved, because you may have someone that may be overwhelmed by that, right? I'm thinking as an only child when I was younger, if I would have gone to my dad's house and there was just a house full of people on my stepmom's side and I didn't know it, that's overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So talking to the child, okay, what would be best for you to re-engage? Yeah. You know, what's best for you coming back to dad's house or mom's house, and see if that's something that they would want. It's a great idea, absolutely, but you always want to be a blessing to the children.
One of the things I know about Lori is that she has a long history in working in the field of youth ministry. And so, you know, she's a big believer in the community of faith and the roles that they play in our children's lives. And so this is part of that bigger narrative of, yeah, you belong in this church, in this community of faith. And these are people who love you and they know you well enough to speak into your life from time to time. And you know them well enough to trust them with moments that you don't want to talk to us about as your parents. Like, you know, so this plays into that larger strategy that we can do as parents, and just surrounding our kids with good people of faith and character that become positive influences, and perhaps certain moments of their life ease a transition from one thing to another. You know, our listeners probably know that from time to time, we have an episode that we call Growing Up in a Blender, where we interview someone about growing up in their blended family. Well, Shelby Abbott, who was featured in episode 63, had this to share for our listeners.
Yeah, I think when you're thinking about holidays or special events, birthdays, stuff like that, it's important to embrace the excitement of it, to like note that it's special, note that it's worthy of celebrating. And I think kids latch onto that really quickly as well. My kids already like the things that they do for Christmas, of their specific little tree in their room that they decorate with their ornaments and those kind of things. And so we celebrate that. And for all of its gaudiness and like tackiness that we do around the holidays, we let them do it because they love to latch onto those things and have fun in that. Kids can find joy in the most mundane things ever. So I think it's fun to be able to do that and to be intentional, purposeful about celebrating things like birthdays, where they feel cared for, where they feel loved, where it's their special day, where they get to choose certain things, where they don't have carte blanche to do whatever they want. It's not a passport to sin, but at the same time, it's an opportunity for them to feel special, and noting that mom and dad are involved in that as well, parents are involved in that, and the siblings are involved in that as well, makes it feel like, yeah, this is not just in my mind. This is not just something that I think is special because it's my birthday or whatever. Other people are celebrating me, and it gives validation to the whole specialness of it. So I think it's important to have little traditions to do, little fun things to do. And then, of course, when we're talking about holidays or something significant like Christmas or Easter, to talk about the main reasons why we celebrate and how we're, as human beings, involved in that, and how we can bring glory to God through that. So the Christmas story is an obvious softball that you can knock out of the park. Easter's very easy as well. But we talk about celebrating our kids in certain things And why we do that, and they're special because they are loved by God, but because God has chosen them. And so if we're able to help them to see their value, they're not valuable. God doesn't love them because they're valuable. They are valuable because God loves them. And helping them to understand that distinction is something that's really important that can help them to understand their place in the whole grand story of what God is telling through the gospel.
I've got something, but if you guys have something, I'm going to let you lead with that. Just feel free to jump in.
What I thought about as he was talking is, I know a family who actually, when it is somebody's birthday, they specifically tell all the other kids, okay, this is Johnny's birthday today. You can't argue with him. You might even need to do his chores. I mean, they really celebrate that child. And I thought, what a great way to let them really feel that they are loved on their birthday. The other thing that we've done is we have a special plate that says, you are loved. I'm sure y'all have seen them in the stores. And we use that on somebody's birthday or even on Father's Day. I'll put it at my husband's place. You know, it's just another way to express love towards those in our family.
And it's so important to do that. I mean, as parents, obviously, we want to reinforce our love for them and God's love for them. And, the energy we bring to these occasions, children feed off that energy. The energy communicates probably more than our words do. Shannon, you have some thoughts?
So another way I try to be intentional in loving all of the children in our family, I put their date, like their birth date. Like my daughter's, her birthday is July 2nd. So on the 2nd of every month, I try to be intentional about having some alone time with her, whether I just go sit on her bed and we have conversation and cocoa or something, or if we go get ice cream. But I use that date of each month to reach out to all of the children. And even with my stepchildren, I try to reach out to them on that date each month, just to try to engage and have conversation and have that connection. And for Christmas, you've heard me say they don't get any more than Jesus. So we try to do it real big for birthdays, and they know that, they expect that. So we try to start out, if they're in the home, particularly if my stepkids are with us, then we try to do breakfast, and they celebrate at the beginning and then go throughout their day. But yeah, we try to do it big for birthdays, just so they know that who they are makes a difference, not only in our family but in our lives.
Shannon just mentioned her kids don't get more on Christmas than Jesus did, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So if you want to follow up on what she just said, listen to episode number 21, having to do with Christmas and great ideas. Shannon expounds on what she just said there. Yeah, reinforcing the love of God is so important. Ladies, let me ask you something. We've been talking about how important it is for us as parents to bring energy, to celebrate moments with our kids, to really make them feel special. I think on occasion, when there's perhaps a stressful co-parent situation, and it could be normally you have a good co-parenting situation, but today it's a bad one, that really makes parents lose their smile. You know what I mean? And now you're just not in a good mood to celebrate the kid's birthday or the kid's graduation or the kid's whatever. What do you do in those moments when you're just frustrated and it's really taking you out of the moment for your child?
I think it's okay to be honest and tell your kids, this is not about you. This is about something that's going on with me and the adults in this family. And I do want to celebrate you. And I'm trying to have the energy to do that. But I just need you to know there's some other stressors that are affecting me today.
That is so good, because you're telling the child what it's not. You shouldn't, in that case, go on to tell him what it is. Your dad's driving me nuts.
Right.
You just leave that part out.
Right.
It's just, this is about me. This is not about you. Please, bear with me as I'm trying to engage into this. I think that's good. You've been listening to my conversation with Shannon Simmons and Gayla Grace. I'm Ron Deal, and this is Family Life Blended. Helping blended families grow is what we do here at Family Life Blended. And if you too are invested in making a difference in the lives of those around you, I want to invite you to the Summit on Step Family Ministry. This is an equipping conference that helps pastors and lay couples alike understand more about step family living and what your church can do to impact others. The event is just 1 month away, October 14 and 15, 2021. It's going to be held at Johnson Ferry Baptist Church in Marietta, Georgia. That's right in the Atlanta area. I got to tell you, it's the premier Step Family Ministry Equipping Conference, and it's attended by children's ministry leaders, student pastors, as well as adult education and marriage ministry leaders. Each year we have a different area of emphasis, and this year the theme is prepare. Along with the release of my newest book, Preparing to Blend, we're going to be equipping you to do premarital counseling and equipping with couples, pre-blended family couples to be exact, and their children. You know, traditional premarital counseling just won't cut it. It's just not enough. What can you do, and how do you structure your preparation? We'll be talking about that and more at this year's Summit on Step Family Ministry. We'd love to have you join us. I'd love to meet you there. Visit summitonstepfamilies.com for all the information you need. That's summitonstepfamilies.com. Hey, if you don't mind, would you give us a quick rating or review through your podcast app or online? We'd really appreciate that. And if you haven't subscribed to this podcast yet, you can. We'd love for you to do that. You can do that on the new FamilyLife app, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search FamilyLife Blended. You know, next time, we've got a special treat for you. I've got an interview with Tracy and baseball legend Darryl Strawberry about striking out in life and God's redemptive work in their lives.
The parents can't be selfish. So what we're saying, the ego has to go, and you have to come to a place of humility.
It's a real-life testimonial with Tracy and Darryl Strawberry next time on Family Life Blended. I'm Ron Deal. Thanks for listening. And thanks to our Family Life Legacy partners for making this podcast possible. You can help us produce this podcast and other resources by making a tax-deductible donation specifically for Family Life Blended by going to familylife.com/blendedpodcast and clicking the donate button, or just look in the show notes for a link. Our chief audio engineer is Keith Lynch, Bruce Goff, our producer. Our mastering engineer is Justin Adams, project coordinator Ann Ancaro, and theme music provided by Braden Deal. Family Life Blended is part of the Family Life Podcast Network, helping you pursue the relationships that matter most.